In this podcast episode, Zia Yusuf, a prominent figure within Reform UK, shares his personal journey, political convictions, and the urgent challenges facing Britain today. The discussion covers a broad spectrum of topics from immigration and social cohesion to governance, law and order, and the future of technology and national identity. Throughout, Yusuf emphasizes his commitment to revitalizing the United Kingdom and unapologetically pursuing what he sees as necessary reforms. Yusuf begins by recounting his immigrant roots, describing himself as a second-generation immigrant whose parents came to the UK from Sri Lanka in the early 1980s. Both his parents dedicated their careers to the NHS, embodying a deep sense of public service. Yusuf's upbringing in various parts of the UK, including Scotland and Cornwall, and his education on a scholarship at Hampton School, shaped his appreciation for the opportunities Britain offers. After a successful career in finance and technology, including founding and selling a tech company, Yusuf was drawn into politics by Nigel Farage's return to the British political scene. He views Farage as a singular political founder figure, akin to tech visionaries in their fields, and believes Reform UK represents a historic opportunity to redirect the country's trajectory. Yusuf paints a picture of a country with a proud heritage of innovation, legal tradition, and resilience. He highlights Britain's contributions to science, technology, and democracy, noting the country's ongoing potential, especially in areas like artificial intelligence. However, he contrasts this with a sobering assessment of current challenges: a social contract hanging by a thread, mass immigration, economic stagnation, and a failing public sector. He stresses that while Britain remains a great country, it is on a somewhat dystopian path that requires urgent and decisive action. A significant portion of the discussion centers on immigration, which Yusuf frames as a quantitative and qualitative issue. He argues that the UK's net migration, which has ballooned from tens of thousands in the 1980s to nearly 1 million annually today, is unsustainable. He contends that this scale of immigration undermines assimilation and integration, leading to social fragmentation. Yusuf is clear that Reform UK's policy is to secure the borders and freeze net migration for several years, with a commitment to deporting over 1-2 million people currently in the country illegally. He acknowledges the human and political complexities of such a policy, but insists it is a national emergency that must be addressed to restore fairness and the rule of law. Yusuf also discusses the growing concerns about sectarianism and the challenges posed by certain Islamist elements within the UK. While emphasizing that the vast majority of Muslims in Britain are peaceful and law-abiding, he points to failures in integration and two-tier policing that exacerbate tensions. He warns that ignoring these issues risks fueling resentment on all sides, and that honest conversations about cultural compatibility and security are necessary. Yusuf rejects simplistic or discriminatory approaches, but insists on the importance of addressing these realities openly. Yusuf is sharply critical of the current political establishment and civil service, describing them as bloated, low agency, and resistant to meaningful reform. He highlights the difficulties faced by politicians who try to enact change within a system rife with inertia and internal opposition. Yusuf stresses that Reform UK aims to overcome these obstacles by winning a substantial parliamentary majority, 350 to 400 MPs, to enact legislation that cannot be easily thwarted by courts or bureaucrats. He draws analogies to founder-led tech companies, arguing that strong, united leadership under Nigel Farage is essential to drive the transformative agenda needed. He acknowledges internal challenges within Reform UK, including his own brief resignation and the party's rapid growth from a pressure group to a major political force. Yusuf insists that despite occasional disagreements, the leadership team is cohesive and focused on results. He points to the party's impressive electoral gains and expanding membership as evidence of its viability and momentum. The conversation turns to law and order, where Yusuf expresses grave concern about rising crime, particularly knife crime, and the failure of current policies. He criticizes local authorities and political leaders who resist effective measures like stop and search, instead normalizing violence with symbolic gestures such as stab response kits. Yusuf also highlights the growing welfare dependency especially among younger people, and the perception among working citizens that the system rewards non-work more than effort. He calls for reforms to raise the bar for benefits and restore a fair social contract between generations and social classes. Yusuf is critical of government spending priorities, pointing to the NHS's struggles, the housing crisis, and the outsourcing of key functions to private contractors like Zero, which he sees as emblematic of systemic dysfunction. He argues that British people are willing to pay taxes if they see value in return, but current mismanagement and perceived unfairness breed cynicism and disengagement. A nuanced discussion emerges around liberal values and cultural integration, focusing on the controversy over banning the burqa and face coverings. Yusuf acknowledges the tension between protecting religious freedom, a core British value, and the need for social interaction and cohesion in public spaces. He personally supports a ban on face coverings in public, not targeting any specific religion, but emphasizing the importance of visibility and security. He points to examples from other European countries and Muslim-majority nations that have enacted similar bans. Yusuf stresses the need for open debate on these sensitive issues, warning that ignoring public concerns risks empowering more extreme voices. Yusuf briefly addresses Reform UK's stance on the Israel-Gaza conflict, affirming Israel as a crucial ally with the right to self-defense and condemning Hamas as a terrorist organization. He expresses concern about the erosion of support for Israel among younger British people and calls for a balanced approach that recognizes the complexities of the conflict. Yusuf also critiques the UK government's diminished global influence and the need for economic strength to underpin foreign policy. Looking ahead, Yusuf identifies artificial intelligence and energy policy as critical issues that Britain must confront to remain competitive and secure. He warns that without investment in AI infrastructure and affordable energy, the UK risks becoming a vassal state to authoritarian powers like China. He highlights the rapid expansion of energy capacity in China compared to the UK's stagnation and criticizes past policies that have driven up energy costs. Yusuf envisions AI as both a threat and an opportunity, capable of transforming industries and public services, but requiring strategic foresight and investment. Finally, Yusuf touches on the importance of reinvigorating national identity, pride, and allegiance in a changing and often threatening world. He sees this as essential to social cohesion and the country's future resilience.